On what was supposed to be the happiest day of his life, Ethan Parker stood frozen in the middle of a luxury wedding venue while more than 200 guests watched his world collapse. The wedding music had stopped. The smiles had vanished. And the woman he had loved for 6 years was standing hand in hand with another man. Not just any man. Her ex. The man she once swore she never wanted to see again. "Ethan," Olivia said softly, avoiding his eyes. "I'm sorry." The entire hall went silent. Ethan stared at her. "What did you just say?" Olivia took a deep breath. "I'm sorry." The man beside her smirked. His expensive watch gleamed beneath the lights. His tailored suit probably cost more than Ethan's car. This was Brandon Reed. A successful tech entrepreneur. A millionaire before 30. And apparently the reason Ethan's wedding was being destroyed. Brandon wrapped an arm around Olivia's waist. "You should tell him the truth." Several guests gasped. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "Olivia?" She finally looked at him. "I still love Brandon." The words hit harder than a punch. For a second Ethan couldn't even breathe. 6 years. 6 years of sacrifices. 6 years of supporting her dreams. 6 years of believing they would build a future together. Gone in a single sentence. The room exploded into whispers. "Oh my God. Did she just leave him at the altar? This is insane." Brandon smiled. "You seem surprised." Ethan clenched his fists. "What are you doing here?" Brandon laughed. "Taking back what's mine." The arrogance in his voice made several people uncomfortable. But Olivia didn't object. That hurt even more. Ethan looked at her. "Is this true?" She nodded. Tears formed in her eyes. But they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of relief. "I tried to move on," she whispered. "I really did. But when Brandon came back..." She shook her head. "I realized I never stopped loving him." Ethan felt every eye in the room staring at him. Humiliating him. Judging him. Pitying him. Then Brandon delivered the final blow. "You were just the safe option." The words echoed through the hall. Olivia didn't deny it. That silence told Ethan everything. His mother lowered her head. His best friend Ryan looked ready to punch someone. But Ethan remained still. Very still. Then something unexpected happened. He smiled. Not because he was happy. Because something inside him broke. And when it broke, it took all his desperation with it. He slowly removed the wedding ring from his finger. The crowd watched. Olivia watched. Brandon watched. Ethan placed the ring on a nearby table. Then he looked directly at Olivia. "For 6 years, I thought loving you was enough." His voice was calm. Dangerously calm. "I was wrong." Olivia's expression changed. For the first time she looked nervous. "Ethan." "No." He raised a hand. "No more explanations." Brandon laughed. "That's probably for the best." Ethan turned toward him. Their eyes locked. "You can have her." Brandon's smile widened. "Gladly." Then Ethan said something nobody expected. "I just hope you enjoy paying the price." The smile disappeared from Brandon's face. "What does that mean?" Ethan shrugged. "You'll find out." Without another word, he walked away. Behind him, whispers filled the room. Nobody understood why the man who had just lost everything looked so strangely peaceful. Welcome to Viral Story Hub. If you're new here, kindly like, subscribe, and comment. And stay with us till the end because this story takes a turn nobody sees coming. Also tell us where you're watching from. Now let's continue. Rain poured from the sky as Ethan walked through downtown Chicago. His phone vibrated endlessly. Friends. Family. Co-workers. Everyone wanted to know what happened. He ignored every call. For the first time in years, he wanted silence. Eventually he entered a small 24-hour diner. The place was nearly empty. He sat down at a corner booth. A waitress approached. "You okay?" Ethan laughed. The sound surprised even him. "Do I look okay?" The waitress smiled sympathetically. "No." "Good." She handed him a menu. "You look like you need coffee. Make it 2." The waitress laughed and walked away. Minutes later, Ethan sat staring out the window. Then he noticed someone cleaning the floor nearby. A young woman wearing a janitor uniform. Simple clothes. No makeup. Hair tied back. She looked exhausted. Yet there was something strangely peaceful about her. As she cleaned, 2 businessmen entered. One accidentally dropped a wallet. The cleaner immediately picked it up. "Sir." The man turned. "You dropped this." He checked the wallet. Everything was still inside. Several $1,000s. The businessman looked surprised. "You could have kept it." She smiled. "It wasn't mine." Then she walked away. Ethan couldn't stop watching. Most people would have taken the money. She didn't. Interesting. An hour later, Ethan finally stood up to leave. As he approached the exit, he noticed the same cleaner sitting alone outside beneath the awning. She was eating a cheap sandwich. Trying to stay dry. For some reason Ethan sat beside her. She looked surprised. "Can I help you?" "Maybe." She raised an eyebrow. That's usually not how conversations start. Ethan laughed. "Fair point." For a moment neither spoke. Then she noticed his suit. His expression. The wedding ring tan line on his finger. Understanding flashed across her face. "You got dumped." Ethan blinked. "That obvious?" "A little." He shook his head. "Today was supposed to be my wedding." Her eyes widened. "Ouch." "Yeah." She nodded slowly. "That's rough. What about you?" She looked confused. "What about me? Why are you sitting outside in the rain eating a $5 sandwich?" She smiled. "Because it's all I can afford." The answer was honest. Direct. No self-pity. Just truth. Ethan liked that. "My name is Ethan." "Emma." They shook hands. Then an idea suddenly entered his mind. A ridiculous idea. The kind of idea people only have after emotional disasters. Yet the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. "Emma." "Yeah. Will you marry me?" She stared at him. Several seconds passed. Then she burst out laughing. "That's the worst joke I've ever heard. I'm serious." The laughter stopped. "Wait." He nodded. "You just met me." "I know. You don't know anything about me." "True. You might be insane." "Possible." Emma folded her arms. "Why would I marry a stranger?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Because my life is a mess." She laughed again. "That's not exactly convincing." He smiled. "Okay. Honest version?" She nodded. "My ex left me today." "Obviously. My family won't stop pressuring me." "Understandable. I need a fresh start." Emma stared at him. And you seem like a genuinely good person." For some reason, that answer affected her. She looked away. Nobody had called her that in a long time. The rain continued falling. Cars passed. The city moved around them. Finally she spoke. "I have a reason too." Ethan frowned. "What reason?" "My grandmother is sick." Her voice softened. "She wants to see me married before." She couldn't finish the sentence. Ethan understood. Both sat silently. Then Emma surprised him. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A real marriage." She almost laughed. "You're serious?" "Completely." Emma studied him. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't joking. He genuinely meant it. Which somehow made this crazier. "What if we hate each other? Then we'll get divorced. What if we become friends? Even better. What if one of us falls in love?" Ethan paused. That question hit differently. Because 12 hours earlier, he would have answered it instantly. Now, he wasn't sure he believed in love anymore. Finally he said, "Then we'll deal with it." Emma stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something shocking. She extended her hand. "Okay." Ethan blinked. "Okay." She nodded. "Let's do it." For the first time all day. Ethan smiled. A real smile. Neither of them noticed the black SUV parked across the street. Or the man inside speaking urgently into a phone. "Sir." The man swallowed. "I found her." A deep voice answered. "Where?" The man looked through the windshield at Emma. The cleaner. The woman eating a cheap sandwich. The woman who had just agreed to marry a stranger. Chicago. The voice on the phone became emotional. "After 5 years?" "Yes, sir." "Are you certain?" "Absolutely." Silence. Then the man on the phone spoke again. "Do not approach her." "Sir." "Just watch." The call ended. Across the street, the observer looked at Emma with disbelief. Because the woman wearing a janitor uniform, the woman everyone thought was poor, was actually the missing heir to one of the largest fortunes in America. And she had just agreed to marry a man who had absolutely no idea who she really was. The next morning, Ethan woke up convinced the previous day had been some kind of emotional fever dream. His fiancée had abandoned him. He had proposed to a stranger. The stranger had accepted. And somehow, by the end of the day, they had legally gotten married at a small courthouse with 2 random witnesses. None of it felt real. Yet when he opened his apartment door, Emma was standing there holding 2 cups of coffee. "Good morning, husband." Ethan nearly dropped his phone. Emma laughed. "That's still weird, isn't it?" "A little." "Only a little." "Okay, extremely weird." She handed him a coffee. "Good. At least we're both uncomfortable." For the first time in 24 hours, Ethan genuinely laughed. They entered the apartment. Emma looked around. The place wasn't luxurious. But it was neat. Comfortable. A place built by someone who valued stability. Photos filled the shelves. Most included Olivia. Emma noticed immediately. Ethan noticed her noticing. "I should probably take those down." Emma nodded gently. "Probably." There was no jealousy in her voice. No judgment. Just understanding. And somehow that made it harder. Hours later, Ethan arrived at work. Unfortunately, disaster was already waiting. His co-workers were gathered around a conference table. Every screen displayed the same thing. Wedding footage. His wedding. Or rather, his humiliation. Someone had uploaded clips online. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. The room instantly became silent. His manager cleared his throat. "Ethan." Ethan already knew. "I'm fired, aren't I? The manager looked uncomfortable. The company doesn't like public scandals. A few co-workers avoided eye contact. Others secretly enjoyed the spectacle. Ethan slowly nodded. 6 years of work. Gone. Just like that. The manager sighed. I'm sorry. Ethan stood. No need. He collected his belongings. As he walked toward the exit, someone clapped. Slowly. Mockingly. Ethan turned. A familiar face stood near the doorway. Brandon Reed. The man smiled. Rough week. Several employees looked horrified. Brandon approached confidently. I heard about your little termination. Ethan remained calm. What do you want? Brandon smirked. Closure. Then close the door behind you. Several co-workers nearly laughed. Brandon's smile tightened. You always were stubborn. And you always were arrogant. The tension became palpable. Brandon stepped closer. You know what's funny? Ethan said nothing. I actually did you a favor. Ethan raised an eyebrow. A favor? Olivia would have eventually left you anyway. The room fell silent. Brandon continued. People like her want more. The words clearly hurt. But Ethan refused to show it. That frustrated Brandon. Because bullies crave reactions. And Ethan wasn't giving him one. Finally Brandon sneered. What exactly are you going to do now? Ethan picked up his box. Whatever I want. Then he walked away. The victory Brandon expected never came. And somehow that bothered him more than any argument could have. Outside, Ethan sat inside his car. Unemployed. Recently betrayed. Married to someone he barely knew. Any normal person would have panicked. Yet strangely, he felt lighter. His phone rang. Ryan. His best friend. Ethan, please tell me you didn't actually marry that cleaner. Ethan smiled. Good afternoon to you too. You actually did? Yep. Ryan nearly screamed through the phone. Have you completely lost your mind? Possibly. Ethan. Relax. I'm trying. Ethan laughed. That only made Ryan more frustrated. You don't even know her. I know she's honest. That's not enough to marry someone. Maybe not. Yet Ethan remembered Olivia. He had known Olivia for 6 years. And look how that turned out. That thought silenced him. Ryan finally sighed. Just be careful. I will. Meanwhile, across the city, Emma entered a small nursing home. An elderly woman sat near a window. The moment she saw Emma, her eyes filled with tears. My sweetheart. Emma smiled. Hi Grandma. The old woman grabbed her hand. You disappeared yesterday. Emma laughed. I got married. The old woman froze. What? Emma showed her the marriage certificate. The woman's mouth literally fell open. You did what? Emma burst into laughter. The old woman stared at the document. Then at Emma. Then back at the document. Finally she whispered. Your grandfather would have loved this. Emma's smile softened. For a moment they simply sat together. Then the old woman asked the obvious question. Does he know? Emma shook her head. No. The old woman nearly groaned. Emma. What? He's going to be furious. Maybe. Maybe. Emma smiled. Or maybe he'll understand. The old woman laughed. You inherited your father's optimism. Emma looked away. The mention of her father always hurt. Especially because she hadn't seen him in 5 years. 5 years since she walked away from the Ashford family empire. 5 years since she disappeared. 5 years since becoming a cleaner under a different name. Most people would have considered that insanity. Emma called it freedom. Unfortunately, freedom was about to end. Because the people searching for her had finally found her. That same evening, a convoy of black vehicles pulled into the nursing home's parking lot. Men in suits exited. Emma immediately recognized them. Her smile vanished. No. The old woman sighed. They found you. The lead bodyguard approached carefully. Miss Ashford. Emma closed her eyes. 5 years. 5 peaceful years. Gone. The bodyguard bowed respectfully. Your father wishes to see you. I'm not interested. He says it's urgent. It always is. The bodyguard looked uncomfortable. Miss Ashford. What? The board is trying to remove him. That got her attention. The Ashford Group was one of the largest companies in America. A corporate giant worth billions. And her father controlled it. If the board was moving against him, something serious had happened. Emma frowned. What happened? The bodyguard hesitated. Someone is attempting a hostile takeover. For the first time in years, genuine concern appeared on her face. Back at the apartment, Ethan was making dinner. Or trying to. The smoke alarm strongly suggested otherwise. Emma entered. Immediately coughing. Oh my God. Ethan looked embarrassed. I can explain. Please do. The chicken attacked me. Emma laughed so hard she nearly dropped her bag. That's not how cooking works. It does when I'm involved. 10 minutes later they sat eating takeout instead. Emma couldn't stop smiling. You really can't cook. Apparently not. The conversation flowed naturally. Easy. Comfortable. Unexpectedly comfortable. Much more comfortable than either wanted to admit. Eventually Ethan became serious. Can I ask you something? Emma nodded. Why were you cleaning floors? She paused. Dangerous question. Because the real answer could change everything. Instead she said. I wanted a normal life. Ethan understood that. More than she realized. Normal is underrated. She smiled. It really is. For a moment neither spoke. Then Ethan asked another question. Why did you actually agree to marry me? Emma looked surprised. You already asked that. No. I asked why it made sense. He met her eyes. I'm asking why you trusted me. The room became quiet. Emma thought carefully. Finally she answered honestly. Because when your world collapsed. Ethan listened. You never tried to hurt anyone. His expression changed. She continued. Most people become bitter. Some become cruel. You didn't. Ethan looked away. The words affected him more than he expected. Then Emma smiled. Also, you looked pathetic. Ethan burst out laughing. Wow. I'm kidding. No, you're not. Maybe a little. For the first time since his wedding disaster, Ethan felt something strange. Hope. Not romantic love. Not yet. Just hope. Unfortunately, hope rarely arrives without complications. The next morning, those complications arrived. Violently. Ethan was scrolling through job listings when someone pounded on the apartment door. Not knocked. Pounded. Emma immediately looked nervous. Ethan opened the door. 3 men stood outside. Expensive suits. Cold expressions. The leader stepped forward. Mr. Parker. Yes. We need to speak with your wife. Ethan frowned. My wife? The man nodded. Immediately. Something about his tone felt wrong. Very wrong. Ethan stepped into the doorway. What is this about? The man ignored the question. Miss Ashford, your father is waiting. Ethan froze. Behind him, Emma closed her eyes. The silence stretched. Then Ethan slowly turned around. His voice barely above a whisper. Miss Ashford? Emma said nothing. The men respectfully lowered their heads. The leader spoke again. Miss Emma Ashford. Ethan's heart skipped. Ashford. The Ashford family. The billionaire family that appeared on business magazines. The Ashford family whose company was worth billions. The Ashford family everyone in America knew. His gaze moved back to Emma. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. All crashing together at once. Emma looked guilty. Very guilty. And suddenly Ethan realized something. The cleaner. The cheap sandwiches. The tiny apartment. The old clothes. Had all of it been a lie? Or was something much bigger happening? And before Emma could answer, a black luxury helicopter appeared overhead. Descending toward the building. The entire neighborhood stopped to stare. While Ethan stood frozen. Because he was beginning to realize that the woman he had married wasn't merely hiding a secret. She was hiding an entire empire. The helicopter's blades thundered overhead. Neighbors poured onto balconies. People stopped their cars. Phones came out instantly. Nobody could believe what they were seeing. Ethan stood motionless. His eyes never left Emma. Or rather, Emma Ashford. The woman he thought was a struggling cleaner. The woman he married without asking questions. The woman who apparently belonged to one of the richest families in America. The bodyguards waited respectfully. No one rushed her. No one pressured her. Yet it was obvious they would not leave without an answer. Ethan finally spoke. You should probably explain. Emma looked down. You deserve that. The bodyguards stepped back. Giving them privacy. At least as much privacy as possible while standing beside a helicopter. Emma took a deep breath. My real name is Emma Ashford. Ethan nodded slowly. I figured that part out. She almost smiled. Then her expression became serious again. 5 years ago, I walked away from my family. Why? Because I hated who I was becoming. Ethan listened quietly. My father built an empire. Everyone around me cared about money. Status. Power. Influence. She shook her head. Nobody cared about people. The pain in her voice was real. I got tired of wondering whether anyone liked me for me. Ethan understood immediately. Every conversation. Every smile. Every relationship. Questionable. Suspicious. Potentially fake. It sounded exhausting. So you disappeared? She nodded. I wanted a normal life. You became a cleaner. Yes. Ethan stared. Voluntarily. Emma laughed. Believe it or not, it was the happiest period of my life. That answer surprised him. Then again. Maybe it shouldn't have. For the first time, people had treated her like an ordinary person. Not a billionaire. Not an heiress. Just Emma. The bodyguard approached carefully. Miss Ashford. She turned. What? Your father asked me to remind you. Emma's expression darkened. Remind me of what? The board meeting is tomorrow morning. Silence. The bodyguard continued. If you don't appear. He hesitated. The company may be lost. Emma closed her eyes. Ethan immediately understood. This wasn't a family visit. This was a crisis. A major one. She looked at him. I have to go. Ethan nodded. I know. For a second neither moved. Then she whispered. Will you come with me? The question surprised both of them. Ethan especially. Because he knew nothing about billion-dollar corporations. Nothing about boardrooms. Nothing about hostile takeovers. Nothing about billionaire families. Yet when he looked at Emma's face, he saw something deeper than fear. He saw loneliness. And he remembered how she sat beside him when his world collapsed. Without judgment. Without conditions. Without expectations. So he smiled. Of course. Relief flooded her face. And together they boarded the helicopter. 24 hours later, they arrived at Ashford Tower. The building rose above downtown Manhattan like a monument to power. Employees filled the lobby. Executives rushed through hallways. Security teams stood everywhere. The atmosphere felt tense. Dangerously tense. When Emma entered, conversations stopped. People stared. Whispers spread instantly. She's back. Is that really Emma Ashford? After 5 years? No way. Ethan walked beside her. The attention felt overwhelming. But Emma remained calm. Until they entered the executive floor. Then everything changed. An older man stood waiting. Silver hair. Sharp eyes. Authority radiating from every movement. Richard Ashford. Emma's father. For a moment nobody spoke. 5 years apart. 5 years of silence. 5 years of unresolved pain. Then Richard stepped forward. And hugged his daughter. The room collectively exhaled. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Dad. I missed you. So did I. The words were simple. Yet they carried 5 years of emotion. Finally Richard noticed Ethan. His gaze sharpened. This must be your husband. Ethan extended a hand. Nice to meet you, sir. Richard studied him. For several uncomfortable seconds. Then he shook Ethan's hand. Firmly. Any man my daughter trusts deserves a chance. Ethan appreciated that. Especially because many billionaire fathers would have reacted differently. Unfortunately there wasn't much time. The board meeting began 30 minutes later. And the situation was worse than anyone imagined. Inside the conference room sat 12 board members. Half supported Richard. Half opposed him. At the center of the opposition sat a man named Charles Monroe. A ruthless investor. Brilliant. Dangerous. And determined to seize control of Ashford Group. Charles smiled confidently. Welcome back, Emma. Emma didn't return the smile. What do you want? The same thing everyone wants. Which is? Power. At least he was honest. The meeting quickly turned ugly. Arguments erupted. Accusations flew. Financial reports were presented. The company's stock had fallen dramatically. Investors were nervous. Competitors were circling. And Charles was exploiting every weakness. Then he delivered his biggest attack. A massive screen lit up. Documents appeared. Contracts. Numbers. Losses. The room became silent. Charles smiled. The Ashford Group is heading toward disaster. Several board members shifted nervously. Richard's expression darkened. Charles continued. The current leadership has failed. He paused dramatically. I propose immediate removal. The room exploded into discussion. This was it. The moment everything hinged upon. And surprisingly, Ethan noticed something. Something nobody else seemed to see. Several documents didn't match. Certain numbers appeared manipulated. Tiny inconsistencies. Easy to miss. Unless someone was looking carefully. Ethan leaned toward Emma. Something's wrong. She frowned. What? Those reports. What about them? They're fake. Emma froze. Are you sure? Ethan nodded. Very. She immediately stood. The room fell silent. Charles looked irritated. Yes, Emma. She pointed toward the screen. Those figures are fabricated. Murmurs spread. Charles laughed. That's a serious accusation. Ethan stood beside her. Good thing we can prove it. Now everyone was paying attention. One by one, Ethan exposed the discrepancies. The altered dates. The manipulated projections. The hidden transactions. The inconsistencies became impossible to ignore. Board members began checking documents themselves. Faces changed. Shock. Confusion. Anger. Charles's confidence slowly disappeared. For the first time all day, he looked nervous. Very nervous. Then one board member slammed a folder onto the table. These numbers are fake. Another spoke up. Mine too. A third joined. This entire presentation is compromised. The room erupted. Charles attempted damage control. But it was too late. His credibility collapsed in real time. Within minutes, the takeover effort fell apart. The vote was held. The result wasn't even close. Richard Ashford remained in control. Charles Monroe was removed from the board. Security escorted him out. As he passed Ethan, his eyes burned with hatred. This isn't over. Ethan smiled. It usually is after security gets involved. Several executives laughed. Charles looked ready to explode. Then he disappeared. The crisis was over. Or so everyone thought. 2 weeks later, Ashford Group hosted a celebration gala. Investors. Executives. Politicians. Celebrities. Everyone attended. Including 2 unexpected guests. Olivia. And Brandon. The moment Ethan saw them, he almost laughed. Somehow fate wasn't finished yet. Brandon approached first. His confidence remained intact. At least initially. Well. He looked around the ballroom. You landed on your feet. Olivia forced a smile. Though her eyes revealed regret. Lots of regret. She had spent weeks watching headlines. Watching interviews. Watching Ethan become associated with one of the most powerful families in America. And every article made her realize what she had lost. Not the money. The man. The loyal man who would have done anything for her. The man she abandoned. Unfortunately, some mistakes cannot be undone. Ethan, she said softly. We should talk. Emma appeared beside him. Immediately. Not possessively. Protectively. Olivia noticed. So did Brandon. We already talked, Ethan said calmly. Olivia swallowed. I made a mistake. No. Ethan shook his head. You made a choice. Those words hurt. Because they were true. Brandon suddenly stepped forward. Let's not pretend you're some hero. The room quieted. People sensed drama. Brandon continued. You got lucky. Ethan smiled. Maybe. You married a billionaire. True. Brandon smirked. There it is. But then Emma laughed. Actually laughed. Brandon looked confused. Emma stepped forward. Do you know why I married him? Brandon frowned. Because he got lucky? The ballroom erupted with laughter. Emma shook her head. No. She looked directly at Ethan. I married him because he was the only person who treated me exactly the same before and after learning who I was. Silence. Powerful silence. She continued. When I was a cleaner, people ignored me. When I became Emma Ashford, people suddenly wanted something. Her eyes moved across the room. Then returned to Ethan. He never changed. The room applauded. Olivia lowered her head. Because deep down she knew Emma was right. Ethan had always been genuine. Always. And she threw that away. Richard Ashford suddenly took the stage. The room quieted. He smiled. I have an announcement. Everyone listened carefully. Today, Ashford Group launches its largest expansion in company history. Applause followed. Then Richard added. And the person leading that expansion will be Ethan Parker. Gasps filled the room. Ethan looked shocked. Even Emma looked surprised. Richard smiled. You helped save this company. You helped save my family. You earned this. The applause became thunderous. Standing ovation. Investors applauded. Executives applauded. Employees applauded. Even people who barely knew Ethan applauded. Because everyone loves a comeback story. Olivia quietly left the ballroom. Unable to watch anymore. Brandon followed shortly afterward. Neither said goodbye. Neither needed to. Their chapter was over. Hours later, after the celebration ended, Ethan stood on a rooftop overlooking Manhattan. Emma joined him. The city sparkled below. For a while they simply enjoyed the view. Then Emma spoke. You know something? What? Our marriage was supposed to be temporary. Ethan smiled. Technically. Technically. Very technically. She laughed. Then became serious. Do you regret it? Ethan looked at her. The woman who entered his life when everything was falling apart. The woman who believed in him when nobody else did. The woman who changed everything. No. He answered honestly. Not for a second. Emma smiled. The kind of smile that changes a person's life. And for the first time, neither of them needed an excuse. Neither needed a contract. Neither needed circumstances. Because somewhere between heartbreak and healing. Between disaster and success. Between stranger and spouse. They had fallen in love. And this time, it was real. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. What would you have done if you discovered your husband or wife was secretly a billionaire? And tell us where you're watching from. Until next time, stay safe, stay inspired, and keep believing that sometimes life's biggest heartbreak can lead to its greatest blessing. The end.